and welcome to Shared Screens Media Club. I am hosting this week. I took away Jordan's show from him. It's mine now. In honor of the spooky season, this week's Media Club is on Mike Flanagan's Midnight Mass.
Finally.
Finally. I've been bugging Shared Screens to make this for like a month and a half. Because I just want to talk about it because I love it so much. I am joined by Austin.
Hello.
I don't know people's screen names. Yeah, I can't do it the way Jordan does because I don't know people's screen names.
Austin works.
Okay. And friend of the show and one of our co-hosts, me and Jordan's co-hosts on Marvel School for Dummies, and first time shared screen guest, Victoria.
Hi.
Welcome.
It's also noteworthy that we're using Zoom instead of just in case the video looks a little different, because it will. That's because we don't have anyone that can record, so we're using Zoom because it's simple and we're dumb. Hi.
Yep. I'm small and stupid, so I have to record in Zoom, not OBS. All right, so Midnight Mass. What did you guys think?
I liked it way more than I thought it would. Like I knew I would like it because I like his previous work, like Haunting a Hill House and all that. But this one just feels like an overall like really solid product. And I don't know how to get past. Like I feel like it probably tackles religion the best, and religion is usually something where I'm like, oof, like it's just not my thing. But it really enticed me to not only like enjoy it, but like kind of learn about it a little bit more. And like that's never happened before ever. And it's just like I said, it's just super well made. Yeah, I loved it.
Yeah, I feel the same way. This is definitely my favorite of Mike Flanagan's shows so far, and I didn't think anything could beat Hill House for me. I love that show so deeply. But this like hit me in emotional places that I didn't expect it to. And I appreciate how they touch on religion in such great ways and made me think about my own religious beliefs.
Literally, one of my notes watching the show was, this is going to make me face my religious trauma, and I'm going to send my therapy bill directly to Mike Flanagan. That was in like Mike. Episode 2 that I was like, oh, I'm going to have to face some shit I haven't had to face in a while.
Yeah.
This is my favorite thing he's ever made. I'm obsessed with Bly was my favorite. Haunting of Bly Manor was my favorite before this. I loved Bly Manor. There was a lot in it that I like really related to.
I love how different they all are, honestly. Like they're all very different products.
Yeah. There was just something about Bly that like hit in all the right places for me. And then I watched Midnight Mass, and I've said this on other podcasts for Share Screens. This is one of my favorite shows ever. It had a huge impact on me. I went on an emotional journey watching this. Because there was a lot that I was like, oh, I get, like I didn't grow up in a super small town, but my mom did. And like, we would go to visit. So I understand that like isolated rural small town where church and religion and like community is a big thing. And I went to Catholic school for 9 years. You know, we hit all those markers. I don't go to church anymore, but that's because, you know, I feel like that's what happens when you're raised Catholic. And you become an adult as you stop going.
The John Mulaney ism.
You know how you lie to your parents?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, okay. The first thing that I wanted to bring up with this is I felt like it was structured very differently than Hill House and Bly Manor. Where with Hill House and Bly Manor, there are a lot of flashbacks and a lot of like, these are our characters now we'll look at how they got here and then how everything here is affecting them, where Midnight Mass just drops you right in.
Yeah, they do flashbacks in dialogue. Like they have like, the first thing you see is kind of a flashback in a way, because like it's I'm terrible with character names, shocker.
Riley is the
thank you.
Guy.
It's the drunk accident, basically drunk driving. And then just another example of like in dialogue is where I guess an example because that wasn't an example the first time, but like he was the choir boy that presented said dead rat or whatever, or dead mouse or whatever, and they tell that story about that ends up being him. Like that could have been a flashback. I don't think it was it? There was no flashbacks in this at all. Yeah, that could have been a flashback scene, but it wasn't.
Yeah, I loved it, and I loved that in the very beginning, we're kind of seeing everything from Riley's point of view. Really quick, because this has nothing to do with plot or anything. Henry Thomas, who plays the dad, whose name I don't know, and Annie, the
Mr.
mom,
Flynn, Mr. and Mrs.
Sure.
Flynn.
are the cutest. I love them. They're
I'm
the
obs-
cutest little couple. Just like,
I'm obsessed with them. I also love Henry Thomas to like no end.
and I truly think so. Henry Thomas was the father in this. He was the uncle in Bly Manor and the younger father in
Hill House.
And I think as projects from Mike Flanagan go that Henry Thomas has been in, this is his best. That scene on the boat where he's like going at Riley and being like, you killed somebody, and are expecting everybody around you just to like be normal with you and talk to you. And I like, you killed someone. And like, that's a big adjustment. And that he can't just be like the mom and just be like, oh, my son's home. Like, and I like that they do that just because I feel like that's something that gets left out a lot when you talk about drunk driving is like, if your kid kills somebody in a drunk driving accident, like, how do you handle that? Like,
yeah,
I don't know.
This had me think about how do you handle something like that? That if you yourself did that, if anybody around me did that, I don't even know how I would begin to like process.
There's not exactly a rule book to follow for that scenario. Yeah.
I also think that storyline with Riley and the drunk driving accident and his redemption later on, his like redemption kind of later on.
It wraps up perfectly with a scene we talked about before.
Yeah.
Is that where you were going with that? Sorry.
Well, I was also going to, I think it also worked so well because Mike Flanagan used to be an alcoholic. He's been sober for, I think, 12 years, but that might be wrong. It might be
well, that's great.
4 or 5. Either way, he's sober. And he had done interviews talking about how like his wake up moment was he almost killed somebody. And that in his years since becoming sober, he's thought about like, what would happen if like I had accidentally killed somebody? And I think it was just handled with it was handled so well, and not the way that like drunk driving accidents in after school specials are handled. It's usually like you see everybody crying and it's this very over the top thing. And all I remember is there's a video we had to watch in high school that was a kid killed a girl that he went to school with. And the parents were like, Victoria, did you have to watch this? Where the punishment was they had to write a $1 check. He had what, Austin? Yeah.
I think I can one up this because my school, they brought all the students outside. We were on the football field and there's a road right by the football field, and they did a live enactment of this happening.
They did a mock,
We did one too.
Our high school made
no
us
one took it seriously.
No,
not a single person.
No, ours made us do it before prom. We all had to go watch a fake drunk driving accident that was like the most wild thing in the planet.
Made sense.
They're going for that shock and awe of it all.
Yeah, but like
it's funny.
I just think they handled it with a lot of nuance.
Yeah, and Mike has said quite a few times now that like Riley is like him, like a version of him in this show. That
actor who plays Riley, I've seen him in a few things. He always plays like a very not stern, but just kind of mute person where he's just kind of there and he doesn't really show a ton of emotion, but he's kind of like Keanu in that way where they just kind of have to do weird shit and not really react to it. That's his role. But I brought up earlier how I think he came full cycle, and I just want to talk about that because I'll forget if I don't talk about it. The scene where he combusts, right? He bursts into flames or whatever. Like I thought that scene is always like I love that scene in theory, but then like and it's a really good scene, but something about it throws me off a little bit. I don't know. It might have just been like the lighting or something. I don't know what it was, but I think the symbolism and all that was perfect because like drunk driving and being a drunk that what comes with that is probably like you probably categorize that as like a selfish thing, right? where like they just keep, putting it down, and putting bad shit in their body. Whereas on his final moment, he could have done that to Aaron on the boat, but instead he didn't do it. He didn't indulge in what was driving him, what he wanted in that moment, in a way.
Yeah.
And that he died because it was a selfish act, whereas before it was a selfless act, whereas before was a selfish act. So I thought that came full circle, and I thought that was really cool.
Also, having Kate Siegel, who plays Aaron, just scream over the credit. Like, it happens, she starts screaming, it just screams over the credits.
I was gonna say the same thing. It's like it's chilling listening to it while the credits start playing.
Good choice.
Yeah. And like it's wild. I also, the way they set up Crockett Island, I really liked, because I feel like people who haven't lived in small towns don't always understand the busybodies that make everybody's life a living hell. Fuck Bev Keane, Jesus Christ.
She's a monster. I hate her. To her credit, the actress killed it. Like, absolutely,
phenomenal.
The actor absolutely killed it. Like, she sells that role. You genuinely hate her, and that's because she's so good at her job.
When I was trying to write notes for this, that was the first thing I wrote down. I just wrote,
like, damn.
Bev. I found an article earlier that was written by a priest who was talking about this show, and I was like, I'm just interested to see like what he has to say. And he talked about Bev, and he was like, Bev is like, what's wrong with like these Catholics who like think they're better and like they don't have patience for anybody.
That line that Annie has at the end, where she's like, why does it bother you that God loved Riley just as much as he loved you? Like, why is that such a problem for you? I love that, just because I feel like that's part of the reason I got turned off to going to church, is I didn't like the people. Yeah. Like, it had less to do with my relationship with God or what I believe in, and more to do with the people are fucking annoying. And like, I don't like that holier than thou, I'm better than you because I believe in something. I believe in this specific thing. And like, also, I know it was the point, but her racism just really, I was like, I'm gonna snap.
Yeah, and like at the end where she literally won't feed on the sheriff because of that. Like, she's like, no, you're not worth it. Like, sorry, I can't. You have tainted blood or whatever.
Yeah, like, what the fuck? Damn. Like, fuck, dude.
You won't even give me the dignity like everyone else.
Yeah. Also, when she killed the dog, I was like, if somebody gave Cleo rat poison, I would shoot them in the face. Oh, like, yeah. I would murder them without hesitation.
I love that when they were trying to like keep this show very like spoiler free online, but the dog dying right away, everybody was like, the dog dies in this episode at this timestamp.
Hey, but to be fair, the kittens in Hill House fucked a lot of people up, because those are crazy. And so like, I appreciated the warning that the dog was gonna die.
I mean, then there's the cats. There's the cats that they all just freaking are on the beach and they're all dead.
Yeah.
So Cleo's back here. Sorry, go ahead, Victoria.
Oh, I was gonna say, people get very emotionally like visceral about dogs and cats and any sort of pets dying.
Mm-hmm.
So that entire scene where Riley's little brother and all of his friends go to the island and all the cats are meowing, I was afraid I was gonna have to fast forward through it, because Cleo was freaking the fuck out trying to figure out where the other animals were.
Funny.
And then the scene where they're all dead on the beach came up, and she just like came and sat down next to me and was like looking, and obviously she had no idea what was going on. She just wanted something, but she was looking at me like, what are you doing? Like, what are you watching?
Like, what you got there? What you looking at? A little morbid, huh?
This is a stupid note, but when they were talking about the island, and I think it's the sheriff goes, it's Lord of the Flies up there with the cats. I was like, this is great. That's just, I want a show about that, about these cats on the island. And then later when they all die, the girl in the wheelchair's dad, Lisa's father,
the mayor,
yeah,
the mayor, thank you. I knew he was something, I just couldn't remember what. The mayor, says to the sheriff, hey, you might want to burn them. That's what we did with the other animals that washed up from the oil spill, just to make sure that like nothing else got contaminated, nobody got sick. I was like, yes, give these cats a massive Viking funeral. I think it's what they would have wanted. Just set them ablaze. It's how they would have wanted to go.
Yes.
Riley's out there with like marshmallows, and he's like, woo.
Yeah.
I want to circle back to you were talking about the community, the small town, and I do have a fun fact that I found out that this was filmed in a tiny park in Canada, and they built that entire, like the whole town, they built every single building inside this tiny little park.
They like completely isolated themselves so that it felt like this community thing, and all they saw were each other. Father Paul. Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Any of you seen the old Dracula movie?
No.
Called Dracula? I know there's a few of them, but like the Dracula. Because I'm fairly certain that there's a comparison to like the town and like the way how the church is kind of like overseeing. It's not, but it's like it's placed in a certain spot on purpose in this town where it's like it's the center of attention. And in Dracula, which is poignant to this, the castle is just like that. It's like right in the center. It overlooks the town. I think that was deliberate. So
yeah.
Also, before this is just one more thing before I forget, because I know I will. The design of the person. I actually don't know who the person was exactly because it's not extremely clear. But whoever Riley sees out in the rain and the storm, that design of that person always reminds me of that GIF of that creepy guy running through the water with the grocery bags.
Yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. See, the thing that I think that was supposed to be the monster in Father Paul's clothing.
I know, but I was like, it's the same person, at least, like the same actor that they put in all the makeup. It is the same actor.
Sure.
My thought when I saw him on the beach, I was like, is this the tall man? Like, are we just getting the tall man from Hill House again?
Yeah.
Like,
that's what I thought too.
Especially that scene where Coley's character, the sheriff, is tucking his son into bed, and he turns and the face is in the window. I was like, but so Father Paul, holy fuck, the actor who played Father Paul did such a good job.
I was thinking that about like episode, was it 3 or 4, when like it actually turns and everything, and like his acting is just on full display, and 4. I'm like, wow. I think it was 4.
I think it's 4.
Like I was like, wow, this guy. Like honestly, the entire cast, like some had much simpler roles, but I just think they were casted super well. Like I said, like the person who plays Riley, like he always plays like not the straight man, but this the guy who doesn't react to anything really, and he's just perfect to be the person who is like overcoming something and doesn't want to be here, and it's just really, really good casting.
And what I loved about Father Paul was he's so creepy because he's so unassuming, and like the way Hamish Lackter, I think his last name is
Linklater, I
think.
think
the way he holds himself is very like except when he's doing sermons, obviously, but he's really funny, which is like off-putting, especially in the AA meetings, and he's like cracking jokes. Like
it is,
and it's like a little like what Linklater.
It is Linklater, yeah.
And it's really.
But he's never heard that before.
And it's just it's very like that's such an interesting choice to me to give Father Paul all these jokes where he's just being there, like in the AA meetings, he's just being a sarcastic piece of shit. Like,
well, I was gonna say, as somebody who like has gone to Catholic church like almost my whole life, he feels weirdly familiar. He does feel like.
I was gonna say that too, but I have no reference for that. So I was like, he does feel like a priest, but then it's like I don't know. Church, I've got a church since I was 10, so
I don't know. He feels like a priest that like either like I've had in my past or like just one that I know somehow, like somebody that I know.
Yeah. Once again, they killed their role. Absolutely killed it.
Yeah. And I liked I don't know. There was something that felt very real about the fact that like he went to Jerusalem and gets stuck in this sandstorm on the road to, I think it's Damascus. I'm failing my Catholic teaching.
It's okay.
On the road that Saul walked before he became Paul, and finds this monster, and that he's like, I have to go back to my parish. And all I could think of was like, this is the church that I went to as a kid is actually the same church Victoria went to.
Yes.
All I could imagine is if our Monsignor all of a sudden came back young, this shit would happen. Like that is exactly what would happen. People would lose their minds.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And when I mentioned before, I was reading an article. I'll have to send it to you guys. I was reading the article written by a priest talking about this show. He was saying too about how Father Paul, like what he does, he's like, I can sympathize and like empathize with him doing this. He was like, we would all do something like this. We would think we found the answer. We found it.
Yeah. I am not a trusting person. And if that monster came out of a cave and attacked me, I would not be going, oh, this is an angel. I'd be like, I'm dying. Like, here's where I die.
That's another thing to bring up. It bothers me so much that never once in this show is the word vampire even said.
Even by like the people who know it's not an angel, like the doctor and all that.
What year is this? Do we know in the show like what year it is?
Well, it's modern times because there's a cell phone.
That's what I mean.
Show.
Like,
yeah,
they're all of them, even if they're in that tiny little town, they have to know what a vampire is. So like,
I kind of like that they didn't mention a vampire though.
It's because they're so centered in on the like. He's an angel. Like we found the answer. Like you said, like I get that angle. It just feels so weird to me. Like not even like one throwaway line or anything.
I feel like knowing me though too, that like even I wouldn't like have processed right away. Like, oh, it's a vampire.
Yeah. See, that's what I was gonna say is that I wish like somebody had said it just to confirm it to me.
That's what I mean. I think it should have been the sheriff or the sheriff's kid.
Yeah, and like because I understood what was happening and like what it actually, and that it was an angel, but I wasn't sure if it was a vampire or a demon.
It's like a pure blood vampire, some nerdy bullshit.
Because this is gonna sound so dumb, but the thing that made me realize, oh, it's a vampire when it came out and started like attacking, besides the attacking him, is it looks like the full vampires from the Wesley Snipes Blade Trinity.
100%, yeah. Also, really cool, like costume design or whatever. Like I love I thought the wings looked kind of weird and gross, but like in a good way. You know what I mean? Like they nailed that.
There was so much skin. It scared me. Like they did well. It scared the shit out of me.
Yeah, it grossed me out.
I love the scene so much when Riley walks into the building and it just leaps at him. I love that scene. It's so cool.
Scared me.
Yeah, like I don't get scared easy. Like I watch horror movies like for a reason. Like it's the suspense, and I like it. It gets me going, but I don't get scared. That I had a weird feeling when it happened in my body, and I was like, "Is this what terror feels like?" Like holy shit, it got me.
I was gonna say the same thing. That I watch horror all the time, and I'm like, this is like whatever. But that freaked me out. That part.
Victoria and I went and saw it in theaters multiple times.
Yes.
And still the new one, obviously. And still like that jump scare when Father Paul goes, oh, which also awesome choice to have it just cut to him and all he says is oh.
What do you say?
Run?
Up,
I don't know anything but thanks, Zoom. Sorry, Zoom just went running out of time. We've removed the 40-minute time limit for your group meeting. Thanks, Zoom.
Appreciate it so much.
And then the monster like slowly turns, and I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. And it jumps, and I was like, I'm sleeping with the lights on tonight, and I did.
I so badly want to see like outtakes. Like I so badly just want to see the guy like turn around and be like, and just start breakdancing or something. Like I love outtakes so much, especially of really good films.
I think really there's either bloopers on the Instagram or the Netflix YouTube channel. Because I know I've seen some.
I'm a sucker for good bloopers. I love some bloopers.
I also don't remember who posted on Instagram, if it was Kate Siegel, Mike Flanagan, or Raul Coley, but it was the guy who played the vampire in all of his makeup with Ugg boots on, reading a book, just waiting to go.
Yes.
And
I think
it's
it
such
was
a funny
Raul.
shot.
Yes.
Because he's just sitting with his leg crossed, his little Ugg boots on. I'm like, this is adorable.
He's just
He's
vibing.
actually not. He's not in a ton of scenes either. So he's probably just chilling, having a good time.
I'm just here, like having a good time. What's up? So also
Really menacing,
did not what?
He was really menacing, like when he's on screen. Like I believe that he was that creature. He was good.
I didn't think Lisa. I didn't think she was gonna so they show that scene of him saying get up and walk. Yes. Sorry,
that's terrible to it. Like, but I mean, I was just trying to make sure that's what it was.
Yeah. I didn't. So they showed that scene of him saying come here, holding the Eucharist far away from her and saying like get up and walk to me in one of the trailers.
Yeah.
And I assumed that was going to be like an episode like 6 thing, and then it happens in episode 2, and I was like, oh, we're just hopping right on into this. But
that scene I wanted to love more too. I keep interrupting you, sorry, but that scene where she like goes to the guy's camper and confronts him about it. I like that scene in theory again, but it felt a little forced, I think. Like, I don't know if they were overacting or if one person was dominating the scene too much. I don't know. It felt off to me a little bit. Not like terrible, but I think that scene should have been like, oh, like, man, like this is really like, I want to cry, but I was just kind of like, I'm here.
I think you have to think about too that it is a younger actress, and I don't even mean like, I'm not even saying that she's a bad actress. I think she did a phenomenal performance in this show. I just think it coming from a child is going to be she's going to have different things to say than if it was an adult speaking to an adult.
I believed her emotion. It's just there was something like a little off about it, just a smidge.
So I think part of where like that little thing off is it's really hard for a young actor to go up against an adult who's been acting for a very long time and hold dominance. And you have the guy who plays Joe. Is his name right in this one? His name is Joe? Or is he Joe in Hill House?
I don't know. I just watched Hill House again.
Joe. We're gonna say Joe. The drunk that shot her. He is doing a phenomenal job and just breaking down. And it's like, I got rid of the gun immediately after I did it, and having this moment of absolution finally. And I love his
performance. I loved it. Coming from my dad is an alcoholic, or what he used to be. He still drinks, but you know, whatever. He's calmed down a lot on the drinking, and it's just like, I've seen this. I've seen this firsthand of a drunk breaking down in front of you, and I believed it 110%. Maybe that's it too, where the person who plays Lisa, whoever.
Lisa, yeah.
Thank you. I'm terrible with names. Literally, the worst person on the planet with names. I think what felt off is like what you were getting at, where she's kind of asked to carry the scene in a way, and it just maybe that's what did it.
I think that's a difficult scene for a teenager to hold dominance in and carry by themselves, when an actor who, if I remember correctly, the actor who plays Joe is like classically trained, is doing an amazing job. Like, I think it's a little hard to hold dominance.
I think even in real life, a girl that age confronting a man who had shot her and was the reason that she was disabled, it would still feel similar.
Yeah, maybe it's meant to feel a little overbearing or whatever. Yeah, that's what you mean.
This has nothing to do with anything, but I thought Bev was going to try to fuck the priest like 8 times.
Same.
I was convinced that's where it was going, is that I literally wrote 10-1 odds that
Here's the thing.
Bev tries to fuck the priest.
Here's the thing. Bev would have fucked anyone if she thought it was like the right move.
Yeah.
So.
This is related but stupid. Did you see on Raul Coley's Instagram, he did one of those TikTok things where you can respond to somebody's TikTok and do it side by side?
Yeah.
And somebody did that I want a threesome, and use
with him and Father Paul.
Yeah. And it's a video of the two of them just like Funniest thing I've ever seen.
That's funny. I do want to. We don't have to talk about it now, but I do want to go back to when Joe the drunk dies. Like I do want to talk about that. So
I forgot it. Oh my god.
How did you forget? That scene fucked me up so
here's
bad.
The thing. That like right before that happens, like the talk that he has with Riley, I think it's he dies right after that talk, right?
Mm-hmm. Because he goes to the priest, right? He goes to the Father Paul right after that.
That was such a simple scene where they're just conversing and you're finally getting the real them going back and forth and how they're overcoming things. And I'm like, man, I really like this character. Not Riley, the other one, the drunk. And I'm like, man, I really like him. Like he's probably my favorite character now. Dead.
Dude, and when they cut away to something, I don't remember what they cut to, and then they cut back to Father Paul drinking from his head, and that image is burnt into my brain. That scared
Riley going home, or Bev is what they cut to, I would assume.
Yeah, they cut to one of them. I just don't remember, and that fucked me. I was like, no.
I think it messed me up too, which is why I blocked it out of my memory.
It's burned onto the back of my eyelids. Like I was. There's not. So I don't love gore, but I can like handle it pretty well. In non-slasher fix, I can do pretty well. And this, I was like,
the scene that sticks with
the
me,
texture of his brain, and like
it's not even like a gross scene. It's just honestly, I couldn't give you an answer why, but it's when is it Aaron, right? Aaron's the
Kate Siegel's Aaron.
Kate Siegel.
Nailed it. Totally great with names. It's when she like puts a knife to the angel's, the vampire's wings, because it felt like so simplistic, but in that scene the vampire's like grunting. He's like ow, like fuck you. But he's still eating because he's so overpowered by the hunger. Something about that scene as a whole is that's the scene that stuck with me. Also Riley being turned or whatever, not turned, but you know what I mean, being bitten for the first time by the creature.
Where's Mother Mind?
I keep interrupting you, and you're like, "Where the hell was I?"
No, you're good. I just can't read. That's just me ranting about Scientology. Something I like. Oh, because Raul Coley's character at one point calls out Scientology. I was like, "Fuck yeah, call out Scientology, Mike Flanagan. They suck."
My favorite moment with Rahul is when I don't even remember what exactly his religion was. Forgive me, but what was it?
He is Muslim. He's
Muslim. Thank you.
Yeah.
And he's like, we love Jesus. We love him. Like you don't understand. I was like, what? Like I had no idea. I don't know anything. Like I am a complete novice. And then I'm like, huh. That's the part where I was like, I should probably look into this stuff.
So I've said this on shared screen stuff, I think before, that I went to a relatively progressive Catholic school where we did learn about Judaism and Islam. They believe Jesus is a prophet and a great teacher. They just don't think he's the Messiah. Like and they hold the Virgin Mary in very high esteem as well, and look to her as a prophet as well. They just believe that they don't fully believe in a Messiah the way Christianity does, and they believe that the teachings of Muhammad that came afterwards are just like an addition, the same way that the Christian Bible built on the Torah, the Quran built on the Bible, which is why it's bullshit when people tell you that the Quran is super violent. It's no more violent than the Bible.
The Bible's probably more violent to be
probably. Let me tell you, Revelations is a wild read. The Book of Revelations is wild. What?
The Book of Revelations is a wild read.
It's insane.
That's a quote. Like, clip that out.
This is our clip. Hi, Chance. Here's our clip out.
It's like 3 seconds. That's it.
And okay. So yeah, episode 3 into 4, I think, is where the show really ramped up. After Riley gets bitten, he gets attacked. He goes out, or we see the vampire. Riley doesn't get attacked yet, but we get to see like him with his dad, and they have that really vulnerable moment on the boat and all the stuff with the younger son. I don't know. It's just, and then in episode 4, we got such a good episode with the first conversation between Aaron and Riley about what they believe happens when you die.
Yeah, I love that scene.
So did I.
they're call. It's I think there's both callbacks when they die about it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I like that Mike Flynn, one of the biggest things I have an issue with in Christianity is the idea that babies that aren't baptized or aren't born don't go to heaven. I just don't jive with that. And I liked that Erin's idea of like that her baby would be loved and be with her parents that had passed and all of that. I loved Erin. I've been like not going deep in on it, but because this is my shtick at Shared Screens is going deep on characters, but Erin is one of the characters that I was like, I relate to this a lot. And like the leaving religion after it being like a big part of your life and it not being a big part of your belief anymore and growing out of like what you were taught by your families and trying to like make your own way, and like you make a lot of stupid mistakes that make people think that you're dumb as a box of rocks, but and I just really like that we never knew who the father to her baby was because it didn't matter.
It didn't matter, yeah.
I like that she called her baby Littlefoot. I was like, this is so cute.
I want to name a dog that now.
Land Before Time, right?
Yes, Littlefoot is the little dinosaur in the long neck dinosaur in Land Before Time.
Yeah.
That's just another layer of the whole thing too, where her baby dies because of the blood. Like it's just another added layer that I'm like, okay.
I thought it was going to turn into a demon. I thought everything was going to become a demon.
It's always much more complicated. So I like that. I mean, I don't like that the baby died, but like I like how it's just like gone. Like it.
Yeah.
Much simpler. I think it's more of an impact. Yeah.
I did feel for Annabelle Gish, the doctor. I don't remember her character's name. I felt for her because I feel like out of all of the characters, she was seeing all of the evidence of what was actually happening. And because she's actually a doctor, she's trying to find like a logical explanation, and there just isn't one.
This little hodgepodge of them at the end, right? It's her and the sheriff and
her mom.
Yeah.
Who's now like in her 30s again and like has her mind back. Like I just can't imagine. You have your mom who is slowly getting younger and younger, and you're like, okay, this is weird. And then Lisa comes in, and all of a sudden she can walk again. You can't figure out why. And then Erin comes in, and her baby's just gone. Just gone. And
I loved
what is happening.
I loved this group of like, for the most part, like minorities being like, we're gonna fix this. We're gonna get together and we're gonna figure it out.
So there's a Kevin Smith movie called Dogma, where you find out that the person who's going to be the mother of the second coming of Jesus works at an abortion clinic. And that's something I've always really liked about it, that this person who's going to be huge in Christianity and Catholicism being somebody who works at an abortion clinic. And I liked that in this, the group that saved everybody or was fighting this mob mentality was the two characters who practice Islam. Yes, the two characters that practice Islam, the lesbian doctor, the woman who was pregnant out of wedlock, the alcoholic, and then Riley's family, who's just sweet little angels. When everything's going crazy in the church, which we're about to get into, and the parents get separated, I almost lost my mind.
Oh my god, I know.
I got very upset.
I was like, Mr. Flynn's gonna die.
They just reminded me of my parents, and I was like, I can't. Like, I can't. Like,
the scene where the mom just kills herself to distract Bev or whatever. I was like, that's really violent. I don't think you had to do it that way. Like, that's a lot. You could have just been like, God, not your throat, you know? Like, just get a lot of blood. It could be from anywhere.
Quick thing, because as I'm scrolling through my notes, I got to the part where I was writing about Joe's death. And I literally wrote, do not kill Joe. Joe, don't hug him. God damn it, Joe. Ew, don't lick it. Because that was one of the things that freaked me out, that Father Paul dipped his finger in his head.
Yeah.
Don't hug him. God damn it, Joe. That's gross.
Ew, don't lick it. Yeah, that fucking
escalated
gross.
So fast.
And then I went, Jesus fucking Christ, I'm halfway through this episode, and that scene was the scariest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's on par with the hammer scene in Midsummer, was that's what I felt like, is that like that's the only thing that has ever made me go like the same
Still haven't
way
seen
as
Midsummer. I need to. I know.
great movie.
Dude.
I
Still
won't
haven't seen it.
spoil anything, but there's a scene with a hammer that like really fucked Victoria and I up when we saw
Yeah.
it.
I'm gonna be watching it. I'm gonna see a hammer and be like, ah,
You're gonna know.
here it comes.
You'll know what it is when you see it.
Sure.
It's disturbing.
Yeah. And oh, hello. Hello, sweet bean. Along the lines of what Austin said about the vampire thing, one of my notes is actually, has no one in this town read Dracula? It's surely, I was like, has no one? Oh, good stretch. Gotta get more comfy. And I really liked having Mildred, Sarah, the doctor's mom, be the one to be like, that is not the Father Paul I knew. That's not my church.
Oh my God.
I don't know what's happening there, but we're not going there anymore.
Yeah, when she runs out.
Yeah. She's like, nope.
That's an amazing scene.
Yeah. His name is not Joe. Oh no, that's a
No,
different
it
guy.
is Joe.
It is Joe.
You were right. This
is a note about somebody. I felt so bad for the character of Sturge, the one that Bev just made clean everything up. And the one that like saved everybody. It was like trying to change everybody to bring them to the church because he thought that was the plan. And the Bev was like, no. Like, no. I love Sarah. Oh, I also wrote in all caps, wait, is that true about hand washing? That people thought that doctor was crazy about hand washing and was like, no, you're wrong.
I think that is a true sentiment.
That's wild.
Yes. I feel
Especially
like I've heard it before.
And I say this on anything that has science in every podcast I've ever been on, that most people, like, when they're writing yada yada, their science a little bit. I liked that in this, he established very clearly that what causes the vampirism is a toxin that in theory, your kidneys and your liver could filter out like any other toxin, where if you stopped taking the wine, I just heard like a robot voice outside my door.
I heard something.
Has the revolution
heard
come?
Something.
Has the revolution come?
It's a vampire. He's talking.
Literally for 2 weeks after watching this, every time I sat down to record a podcast, I would sit like this so that I could see my back door because I was like convinced that I was going to look up and it was going to be standing there.
Sure. The thing you brought up about the like, it's not a man-made disease, but something that makes sense in modern science.
Yeah.
There's a line in there that it's like, you have a mad craving for an immense amount of iron. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, that makes sense. Like, people could just eat a lot of steak, but like, I get the hunger. Like, the hunger is all I knew was that one line, and I was like, okay, it makes sense.
It felt a lot like minus that in theory your liver and kidneys could filter it out, but that it was a lot like rabies, where you just want iron so bad that you kind of like lose your mind and will do anything to get it.
And then, a little bit.
Yeah, and then we don't go the way of Twilight and start sucking on raw meat and
sparkling.
Yeah.
God. There was a little bit of sparkling when they were in the sun before, like when they started to burn and then they would come back inside.
It's more like a lot of sparkling when they're, combusting.
Yeah. I hate that the sheriff doesn't have a gun. I just feel like that's a bad idea.
It is a bad idea, but the way they wrote it, it made sense.
That's what I say too. Yeah, it seemed convenient for the plot, but also they're like, how do we make this convincing? And I think they did.
Yeah, I was just like, carry a gun, dude. For nothing else then. And maybe this is, I don't like understand what this is like. Yeah, just something, because you are the only person of color on this island for the most part. And you're the only person of color that is not Christian. So like someone might attack you.
Yeah.
Like my neighbors having
rubber bullets, something. Just
something so that you and your son are safe.
Mm-hmm.
Which, okay, I don't think we've talked enough about it. The sheriff and the scene when Sarah comes in and she tries to explain, she's like, I think this is what's happening at St. Patrick's. And that whole scene where he talks about being a cop in New York.
Yeah,
9/11,
I didn't expect this scene at all.
This was so beautiful, and I think I think we just need to mention it.
Horrifying, but beautiful on screen. I understand what you mean.
Yeah,
I love
beautifully
that.
written, beautifully performed.
I know what you meant. Just being a stickler.
It's also just like, so Victoria and I are both from downstate New York, so, and very close to, like, we're only about an hour and a half outside the city, and when 9/11 happened, like, firefighters from our area were being called down to the city to help. It was really different for, like, months after 9/11, where, like, the way policing was happening in New York City was just, like, now the NYPD has a counter-terrorist, like, unit, and, like, all of this stuff, and it was all of a sudden very hard for people who were Muslim to be cops and not, you know, be pushed into this pushed out or not be able to work. I don't necessarily know if going to an island full of a bunch of Catholics in the middle of nowhere that's completely isolated is necessarily the answer to that, but I understand.
It was an escape, just some way to get away from it.
It was another writing thing that was at least convincing enough for me.
Yeah,
that, like, I understand why he would do that.
Yeah, I didn't dislike the writing. I disliked the character's choice.
Sure. Can we talk about the stash, please? His mustache, please.
It was great.
It's fantastic. Okay. I don't think I've ever seen him with, like, just the stash, and I'm like, damn, like, it's amazing. It's hard to look good with, like, primarily just the stash, and he looked really good with primarily just the stash. Pulls it off.
I'm glad that they made him a little different by putting the slit in his eyebrow and giving him more stubble, because if they hadn't and just left him with the mustache, I would have been like, oh, this is Owen from Blind Manor. I would have
just thought it was his Blind Manor character.
Right. I forgot it started with Owen, to be honest with you.
Yeah. Raoul, though, however, that character is so chill through a lot, where, like, he doesn't, like, a lot of his reactions are like that squinting Squidward meme where he's like what's like,
that's the occupation.
And, like, I love the way they
church
handled
scene.
What?
The church scene when he goes to the church for the first time and it ends up the angel vampire demon thing shows up
and he's just kind of like,
the look on his face, he's like, what in the Christian hell is happening here?
if we're on that scene, like, I love the moment where he's like, we're leaving. He grabs his son's hand and he's like, we're leaving. And I'm like, Rahul versus the fucking demon. Like, let's fucking go. Like, kill this motherfucker. Like, I was hyping up my dude. Yeah. This is when he had the gun.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, he pulls the revolver out and shoots into the air. Before
I forget, we brought up how, like, he was very kind of calm under pressure a lot. I thought they did a really good job at justifying that for the scenes with his son, where he wasn't calm when he was with his son. He was, like, telling his son, like, you cannot do this. Like, I've explained to you so many times why this is wrong. And it was a completely, as a father, his character was completely different. And I loved that back and forth between sheriff him and father him. I thought that was really, really well done.
And fuck his son, first off.
I don't blame his son, though.
There's a part of me that does. If I was raised one religion, and if my friends were all something else and were like, hey, come to our church, and one of the first things I go to, they're passing out cups of rat poison, I'm gonna be like, check please, I'm leaving. Like, this is too far. Like, we're doing some Jonestown.
He's in a town where he's seen a bunch of miracles. Like,
I'm not drinking rat poison.
Like, it's just
Jim Jones.
Like, I get it. I probably wouldn't either, but I can sympathize with his decision and how his father is very, like, demanding on, like, not doing that, and that's just gonna make you want to do it more. And it's just like, oof, okay, like, I understand that, and then the redemption at the end. So it all comes full circle.
There's just, I don't know if it's because I love watching stuff about cults, but I was like, this is some Jim Jones, Jonestown Flavor Age shit. And, like, I'm not for this. This will always be my line. when some church starts going, drink this, it would normally kill you, but it's not going to, I promise. Like, it's not, if you're a true believer, it won't kill you. I'd be like, I don't care.
Yeah.
I don't trust you enough. I don't trust anything enough to do that.
I don't even like trust falls. So
yeah. Even priests at the church I grew up in, if they handed me a cup of rat poison, I'd be like, no, nope.
I'd be like, excuse me?
Didn't even drink the wine when they gave it out.
No, because that's besides everything else notwithstanding, it's just gross. And even gross. Now, like, especially now during COVID times, think about you're all drinking out of the same cup.
They don't do it anymore.
That's what we're gonna talk about right now. There's a legitimate cult like scene, and you're like, germs.
No, this is just like a thing with me and the drinking of the body and blood of Christ.
The real enemy, germs.
It's just I've always, so when we made our first communion, it was up to us if we drank the wine or not. It was really up to our parents. And my mom was like, I don't want you not drinking the wine because it's alcoholic, because it's one sip and it's not going to do anything to you. She goes, I don't want you drinking it because of germs. And like my mom never took wine because germs. And just really quick before we get into the finale, the final moments and wrap up, I just want to talk about that. I love that Mike Flanagan went the direction with that. In theory, Catholics truly believe that, are supposed to truly believe that on the altar, those wafers and wine actually turn into the flesh and blood of Christ. And for myself included, for a lot of people, that's the line where you're like,
yeah,
I'm not saying I don't believe in God, but I don't believe in that.
Yeah, it's hard. It's a hard thing to like wrap your brain around. You're
yeah,
like, why? Just why?
And like how is also like how would that happen? How would that happen? And like so my mom is Roman Catholic, my father was Lutheran, and one of the big differences between the two is Lutherans believe that it's symbolic. And my dad, I was talking to my dad about this, and he goes, yeah, no, Lutherans don't believe that shit. We're like, okay, it's symbolic of his body and blood. But like, that's a very weird thing that like parts of Christianity are just like, yeah, every Sunday we go and eat a sliver of flesh and a little swig of blood and go on our way.
Well, there are so many things that are just completely fucked that are in the Bible. And it's like, whatever.
Like, what do you mean? Because here's the thing that I would like to point out. This is all based off of the Last Supper in the Bible, where Jesus breaks the bread and it's like, this is my body. He does not turn that into his flesh. It was still just bread there. Why are we eating flesh? Yeah. I feel like it can still be symbolic, my guy.
Did he eat his own flesh?
Yes. He breaks bread and eats with them.
Cannibal. Confirmed.
Like he does what the priest does, where that's how you get mad cow disease, or that's a whole other level of cannibalism, eating your own flesh. But that's the whole thing. In mass, the priest changes the Eucharist and the wine into the body and blood, and then he eats it, and that eats one and takes a drink of wine, and then goes out to the parishioners, which is supposed to be like Jesus took the bite and then passed it on. But like, ew like, if that was real, that'd be so fucking gross.
Yeah, well, totally. I'm gonna go get my dogs. I'll be right back. Continue.
Mike says that he came up with this idea for this show because when he was a kid, he was like, "Are we vampires because we drink blood when we go to church?"
What is this? Like, what? Also, not for nothing. Church wine is gross. It's gross. It tastes disgusting.
I don't think I ever had it.
I was an altar server, so I had it like once.
Yeah.
Because there was a visiting priest at our parish who did not give the altar servers an option over whether or not they took the wine. It was just like, here, 13-year-old child. Yeah, the altar servers doing the mass, I was like, I'm having war flashbacks. When he's carrying the cross, I was like, this lucky bastard, that cross is made of wood. The one I had to carry is made out of solid brass. Yeah. It was the heaviest thing I've ever had to pick up.
It's like the reason I didn't want to be an altar server. It's like, I can't carry that thing.
When during that final mass, he comes out with the incense and is waving it around, I literally was like, those are like the bane of my existence. I burnt myself on those things when I was younger so many fucking times because getting the lid up is so hard and you always end up touching a hot piece of metal. But so we get to the end. They're all in church. We're all gonna drink some fucking rat poison.
Straight up cold.
Yeah. And here's the thing that also killed me is that the mayor, his wife, Sturge, Bev, and Father Paul sat down and goes, okay, we're gonna save all of our parishioners. We're gonna give them my vampire blood, my angel blood, and make them all immortal. And then we're gonna go to the mainland and we're gonna do this all over the world. However, we have to do this safely. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to give everybody in the room rat poison and then just let it happen.
And we can only move around at night. Weird.
Yeah. And we can only move around at night. So, like, we're going to have to figure out a way to do this when we get onto the mainland. Go to Alaska first. It's dark all the time.
Sure.
It's dark for like half.
Just claim Alaska.
Yeah.
Done.
Yeah.
God.
Yeah, the thought process of like, we got to share this to the mainland and then to everyone, and like, I mean, I get it coming from the sense of like, that would be what the church would want to do.
It's that missionary thing.
Yeah.
Of like, I have found enlightenment and I must share it with the savages who have it.
Yeah.
However, I would like to point out that I feel like the second Father Paul was like, I have been bitten by an angel and I am now like the second coming. The Vatican would be like, we have some questions that we would like you to answer before you do anything.
I know, the Pope would be like, yo, you good? Are you okay?
Are you sure?
Let's talk about this for a moment before we share it with the world.
Also, sidebar, I saw like a meme for Midnight Mass on Twitter that was somebody being like, how did Father Paul convince the monster to wear the vestibules in that scene when he comes out and he's in the priest vestibule robes and he's like, or vestments, not vestibule, the vestments robes. I'm like, how did you get this monster? Does this monster speak English? Like, how did you get him to put those on?
How did he get him in the trunk?
That's my other question too. Yeah, that he was in the box.
That's symbolic of Dracula too, I think. I think there's a scene of Dracula arriving on an island or whatever. Not an island, but like a secluded town in a trunk.
Yeah.
I think so.
I think he comes in like he comes in his box, his
coffin. Is that what it is?
Yeah. Because it's like the only safe way he can travel during the day is if he's in his little box. That
makes sense. Yeah, you're this all-powerful being and you're like, yeah, I'm gonna go in this box, then you're gonna carry me.
And you're gonna carry me. Because my thing with it was I was like, I understand why this vampire went, because this dumbass thinks you're an angel and is offering you an island full of people to feed on.
Couldn't they just get like a massive umbrella and then just walk around because no sun is touching you?
I don't know.
I know angles, but I feel like that could work.
And I know
or something that like refracts the sunlight in a certain way to where, you know what I mean, where it's like it's not damaging your skin.
Whatever. I think it's either What We Do in the Shadows or what was the shitty vampire movie that Johnny Depp was in based off Dark Shadows. One of them, they can use the vampires use umbrellas to go out in the daytime. I just don't remember which one.
Sure.
That's not even anything I've ever thought of before.
I mean, to be fair, I didn't think vampires could. I never knew that there was lore where vampires could fly before this. I thought they could fly when they turned into bats. I didn't think they had wings. Which is why I got so.
Excuse me, purebloods can fly always. They have massive wings because they're pure blood, so they're different.
I told one of you that one of my friends watched this show and in episode 2 guessed that it was about vampires because they were like, oh, I saw something. One of the characters was like, oh, I saw something flying over town with a massive wingspan. He was like, oh, it's a vampire. I was like, how the fuck did you put that together?
Yeah,
if I would have put anything together, I'd been like, demon.
I thought it was a demon. Thank you. I thought it was a demon specifically because of the scene with the weed dealer, lovingly nicknamed Bowl, which is the dumbest name for a drug dealer I've ever heard. But like,
It reminds me.
whatever.
There's this kid I went to school with. He's like a 6'3", 300-pound like NFL lineman man. Like he's just a hulk of a man, and his name's Jebediah. And I'm like, this is so perfect. And he goes by Jeb.
Oh, because that's all I could think of is that when the sheriff is like, "Hey, Bull, what's in your pocket?" I was like, is this your legal name, or do you just allow people to call you Bull? Like,
You'll never know.
Just lets it happen.
But that
Call me whichever
scene,
you want.
and I think it's episode 2 when he's walking past the barn and he hears somebody call him from inside, and it's the vampire like changing its voice. I thought it was a demon because again, I never heard of vampires, like any lore where vampires could like change their voice and sound like somebody else to lure people in.
I think that's actually it's like a bird thing where birds can mimic that. So it's like a bat bird thing. I remember something not for this specifically, but something about like the origin of vampires and mimicking and all that stuff.
Yeah, my experience with vampires is limited to reading Dracula and Twilight. And What We Do with the Shadows. That's
Blade
experience.
apparently.
Yes, I do love Blade, but I watched those movies when I was very young, and I didn't fully understand that they were vampires.
I remember
they were demons.
I remember the day someone was like, "Yeah, that's Marvel," and I was like, "What?" Yeah.
I'm so excited for the remake, my man. Give me Mahershala Ali as Blade. I'm ready.
You're telling me Blade's running around being like, "Sup, Spidey?"
Yeah, Blade and fucking Moon Knight are like they're not BFFs. They just have to work together a lot, and it's very funny to me.
It's just not a crossover that I would expect. Like
No.
When I saw the Blade movies with Wesley Snipes, I'm pretty sure the Marvel thing pops up. Like it says like Marvel property, and that still just never registered to me. And I was like, cool.
Yeah. So yeah, they're in the church. Everybody's drinking rat poison and dying, which is just like chaotic.
Drinking rat poison, as we do.
And then the people who didn't drink rat poison are just getting ripped to pieces by the people who did.
Yeah.
Your priest is bleeding out because Mildred shot him in the chest and then got carried out of the church by the monster. Which I really thought
way to go.
Yes, A, way to go, Mildred. B, really thought that was going to be the end of Mildred.
Sure.
When the vampire screamed, flew at her, picked her up, and banged her out those doors, I was like, bye, Mildred. It was nice knowing you.
You a real one.
You got it. You're on it. I also wrote a note I'm so sorry, but I wrote a note in all caps that says, God is in heaven watching this going, what the fuck are you guys doing?
Literally though.
Like God is watching this going, what are you doing? Stop. This is not the plan.
Yo, that's not what you think it. No.
Like in What If, when the Watcher's like, I have to intervene. That's how I imagine God in this moment. He's like, I have to intervene right now.
Like Jesus. And then I love that they go out into the back and Aaron has the gun and Bev stops them and's like, what you gonna do? And Aaron just shoots her 4 times in the stomach.
Yeah.
Like, suck it.
Yeah.
100%.
It is why I think Bev is such a good villain too, is that she knows her plan and always planned to go away from Father Paul if he didn't follow the plan. And like burning everything so that she can be Peter and allow people into the gates of heaven, being the rec center, to hide. Like, also, if you can quote, she quotes Revelations. If you can quote Revelations, you are a sociopath. Like,
you're deeply Christian. Like,
and
deeply.
Like a fucked up person.
Most likely negatively. Deeply.
No, yeah.
And one of the most heartbreaking scenes in this for me was when Sturge is like, what do you mean? What do you mean we're not letting everyone in? Like, I saved all these people. Like,
it reminds me of that, I mean, you're not talking about this, but the scene where that random person is there and he's talking to him and he's like, let's go over here, like blah, blah, blah. Because he has to turn him. You know what I'm talking about? That random person who we've never seen before.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was a weird scene.
And then when the bigger altar server with the weird curly bowl cut.
Oh, right, yeah.
When he's like, I think I killed my mom. And like like that's a 15-year-old having to process that he killed his mother. And like I just like it's so heartbreaking. And then the sheriff's final monologue is great. I think Bev shooting him in the leg twice was a little gratuitous, but like once would have done it, and you're just interrupting him now, but whatever.
Yeah.
Rude.
Yeah. I was like, you got him in the thigh. He's dead. Just leave it alone.
Yeah.
Oh, he's gonna bleed out, yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And then those final moments of I think her name is Annie, Mrs. Flynn.
Yes, Annie.
Can't
remember Mr. Flynn's name, but I know she's Annie.
Yeah, she starts singing like a hymn, and they all stand together and wait for the sun to come up, which they know will kill them.
Yeah.
Because
Henry.
the sheriff, and his name is Henry?
I think so.
In the show too?
Oh,
that-
maybe
the
not.
actor's
Maybe
name is
not.
Henry Thomas.
Maybe not.
Okay, I'm looking it up because I have a minute.
Ed, it's Ed. Sorry.
Ed.
Ed.
Sorry.
Annie and Ed. It's such a cute old couple. Annie and Ed Flint. That's why I remember her name. Is my mom's best friend growing up. My mom's best friends growing up, their mother was named Annie Flynn. It's the only reason I remember that name.
Good.
But it's just
All right, cool.
it's very beautiful to me in a weird, like, dark way that they know that they're gonna die, and they have such faith that they're gonna go to heaven afterwards that they're okay.
Yeah.
That like they just want to be with their families and worship in their own way one more time and go, which is something that I'm like weirdly jealous of. Because I don't know if it's because this is about to get deep, but I don't know if it's because I'm young, but I can't think about dying in that peaceful way. And I just think it was very beautiful to have Aaron's monologue that was, I'm getting part of it tattooed on my body because that monologue meant a lot to me. The one when the vampire's drinking, and she's cutting his wings and he's drinking from her neck. About that, like, it doesn't really matter what you believe in because we're all just the cosmos.
Yeah.
And like, it's not how we perceive things isn't real. And just, I really like that idea of self being the problem. Thinking of yourself as just an individual self is part of the problem, and that dying isn't an end, it's just returning, like I think the line is returning like a drop of water to the ocean.
Yeah. She's like symbolically saying like we're all part of this whole big universe.
Yeah, and that the energy that we are made up of isn't any different than the energy that anything we're touching at any given time is made up of, etc. Just meant a lot to me. Because I don't like to think about death. I don't handle death well. I don't like to think about it. It gives me a ton of anxiety.
Same. It's my number one fear is just thinking about death.
Yeah,
so.
I can't. And I remember, Victoria, when you watched The Good Place, you said that the finale, that stuff happened that made you kind of not make your peace with it, but feel better, I guess, about it.
Yeah.
This Aaron's monologue did a little bit of that to me. I'm still freaked out by it, but it did, like, it gave me, it's like a weird thing, and I like hate saying this, but like I'm a little thankful to Mike Flanagan because it came at a very good, like a very needed point in my life that gave me like a little bit of peace about my relationship with religion and faith and death and all that I really, really liked. I loved that Sarah was Father Paul's daughter.
Oh my God, that reveal.
They died holding each other.
Yeah,
went to the little bridge.
It's very wholesome.
Mm-hmm.
I
like Father Paul's, like, he didn't, like, he could have easily became the villain in this story, but I don't think he did. I think he was just he meant well almost every time, and then
yeah.
He just didn't understand what was happening. Sorry for
My
that.
only upset with him was, seeing in his final moments was like him finally realizing that he should have been there for Sarah, sort of thing. That really messed me up.
He even tried to
And-
turn her again. Like
Yeah.
even after all this has happened, he's like, I have to save her. Like he's so desperate.
Yeah.
And when he admitted that he came back for his parishioners, but he also came back so that Sarah and Mildred and him could live forever and have the life that they didn't get to have. It's just very, and like when he sees what Bev is doing, it's like anybody can go into the church. Like this is not, I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. I'm just, like I just he realizes at the end what.
So no, that's Bev.
Yeah. And I loved having that they had the sheriff and his son do their morning prayers as the sun was coming up together. And Bev trying to dig a hole in the sand to hide from the sun, like almost made me feel bad for her.
I didn't
would have
even
loved
realize
if that was improv. Like that felt improv almost. I bet you it wasn't, but I would have loved if that was like a nice touch where she's trying to accept it like with dignity, how she's gonna die. And it shows her kind of like struggling with that. And then right before it's about to happen, she's like, no, and she starts digging. She's like, I can't, I must live.
It's symbolic in the way that she's so cowardly. Like her whole character is just that she's scared that she's not good enough.
She's scared that she's not somebody.
Yeah.
And like that's a very human thing. The way she goes about it is not okay, obviously, but and it's very symbolic too to me that the fucking biggest Bible thumper in town, who should be totally fine with dying because you're going home to fucking God or whatever. The Catholic Church is gonna be
fucking
God.
Going home to fucking God.
At the end, can't do it and wants to do anything to not die.
Yeah.
And that's, I don't know, it's that everybody that she looked down on is standing together and having this peaceful moment of tranquility and togetherness before they pass. And the guy that she calls a terrorist and is racist to him and his son are having their moment and being true to themselves, and she's trying to dig herself a hole in the ground to escape her fate is just like, I don't know. And then having the two kids survive.
That's what I was gonna say. Is there a sequel to Midnight Mass?
He's saying it's a standalone. And that
I mean, the original book. Is there a sequel to it?
No. There's a sequel in Hush, but there's not one he ever was actually going to write.
Also, the book version is just like he just has that. Like it's never been published.
I want him to publish it though. Yeah, no, he never published it. He didn't think it worked. Yeah.
I would love to see it published. I just want to know what's different, like how it's changed.
I want to know whose point of view it's from and like all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think I mentioned this before, like off air to LeighErin. This is another thing. I bring this up a lot, and I think it's just because I'm a nerd. This feels a lot like a weird comic book.
Mm-hmm.
Where like there's a lot of on-screen deaths. There's a lot of like there are two survivors from this thing that would go on to have more story, like continuation in the line or whatever. And there's a lot like there are characters that you're like, oh, if you survive, you're gonna have like a weird, really hard life, but they don't. And it's very comic booky, and the way the narrative is kind of weaved in a way. It's a more like a play, but just in its best moments, I think it feels like a comic book, and the nerd in me loves that.
Yeah, and I love having, and that the last moment being Lisa say that she can't feel her legs anymore. It's just. And I know Mike Flanagan has said that that's open to interpretation, that he didn't have like a set thing in mind for what that meant. It was just very much open to interpretation of the viewer.
Hate when people do that.
I liked it just because I took it as that meant that the monster would die and that this didn't happen for nothing and was kind of this new birth, very symbolic thing of A, children being the ones who are spared, and B, it being one man and one woman, and very Genesis biblical bullshit.
Sure, and this ending wasn't quite that bad, but it's just one of those things where, like, if it's completely up to interpretation, I'm like, you just didn't know how to end this. Like, yeah. Stop it.
What he was basically saying is that either the toxin, what he had said in an interview was, he was like, some people are looking at as that like the toxins had finally left her. And that if they had just waited and not fed on anymore, like everything could have gone back to normal, but didn't because of everything that got stirred up in, or that the monster never made it to the mainland. I want the sequel that just shows the monster trying to fly with all the holes in his wing and just dropping into the Atlantic Ocean like a stone. And it's like the monsters and signs when they fall in water and are like freaking the fuck out.
Just like an end credit scene.
I think it'd be convincing if there was an end credit scene and it was him like flying as fast as he can see the sunrise, but then there's like a fisherman's boat and he just like dive bombs into the boat and then the sun comes up and we don't see any flames.
Yeah.
And then it just cuts and it's like, did it die? Like I would have loved that.
Yeah.
No, because that would make me this ending gives me some peace, I feel like.
Does it though? Because we don't see him we don't see it die on screen.
Well,
30 miles though with that many holes in your
I'm with you. I'm with you. I think he's dead. I think it's done. It's kaput, but we don't see it happen. So it's like, meh.
Just the line of Lisa saying that she can't feel her legs gave me some sort of peace, that I was like, okay, there's some sort of closure here.
That's what I took that too, is like, okay, it's dead. Like the thing that created this is now dead. But in theory, that thing could still be alive and the toxin could have, or whatever, could have wore off. Like it's all these things where it's like, yeah, most likely 99%, it's dead, it's over, but it's only 99%. There's 1% chance, you know?
What bothered me about the ending, though, was I just kept thinking about those kids. I was like, okay, well, where do they go now?
Yeah, I thought about that too. I'm like, what's next? Like, what do you do? You go to
Does he have to row? Does he have to get to the
mainland? They have to get to the mainland.
Oh, I was saying I would just go back to the island, because they got the tower working again, I think.
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Sure, like the two of them could have figured out, because if
also, I wouldn't want to go back.
Out how to turn off, but like you got to get a ferry to go back to the mainland. You can't row 30 miles.
I mean, you could. You can take turns.
I just thought of something really dark that I'll say off air. Anyways, yeah, I don't know. I love this show. I think it's great.
It's really good. It's really, really good. Yeah.
I'm glad that Mike Flanagan finally got to make it.
I don't think there was a single like bad character. Like even the person you bring up, Bowl or whatever his stupid name was, like Bowl. He had a purpose. He served his purpose. He died early on purpose. Like it made sense. Joe deserved better. That's all I'll say.
Joe deserved better. Pike the dog deserved better.
Oh my god. There's symbolism in that too, because like the way the dog dies is very similar to the way Paul dies in one of the scenes, right?
Yeah. And the way that they all die when they swallow the rat poison. Yeah. Any final thoughts?
Loved it. I'm basically anything Mike has his name on, Mike Flanagan, I'm gonna be like, yep, I'm in. I don't care what it is.
I'm so excited for the Midnight Club, which is not related to Midnight Mass, but I'm very excited for that next year.
Midnight Club.
Yeah,
it's a video game. I feel like there's like a racing game called Midnight Club. I think there is.
I know there's a survival co-op game called the Blackout Club.
Yeah, that's not what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, then I don't know.
I've heard of that as well, but
the Midnight Club series that he's doing is based on something else.
It's based on children's like horror novels from like the 60s, like R.L. Stein, and it's about teenagers living in hospice care. Which means that they're dying of something.
Midnight Club.
Yeah. But yeah, I'm really excited for that. I love it. Any final thoughts? Any final thoughts, Victoria? Before we sign
That's all, folks.
I loved it too. This felt very full circle because on Marvel School for Dummies, we joke that we're like, we should have a Mike Flanagan podcast.
Sure, yeah.
I want to talk about Mike Flanagan all the time. Like, I just
is he like a good person too? Like, is that like I know he's sober and all that. Like, is he just a great human being as well?
He seems cool.
Yeah, and he will say that he did some bad things when he was an alcoholic, but
honestly, in my experience, in these 25 years, almost 26 years on this planet, usually the best people are people that have done some dumb ass shit, learn their lesson and are like, they come around, you know, they get there in the end.
All right. Well, that has been Shared Screen Media Club. All of our, I don't remember how Jordan ends these. All of our shit's in the description. All of our links to things are in the description. I'll give Chance Victoria's info if you want to go follow her.
I'm gonna use that from now on. Thanks for watching. Shit's in the description. Bye.
Because we have and the problem is because we just did the relaunch, I don't fully know what
Remember
all of
all
our
of them.
acts are.
Yeah.
Sure.
I just know our Instagram off the top of my head. But yeah, so that was Media Club, guys. We'll be back
Shared
next
Screens
week
Media Club.
with something else different.
We're
filling
back
the
with
time.
something else.
I don't remember what we're doing next week anymore.
Oh man,
I have
that's
no
funny.
concept of time. My brain is mush. All right. Goodbye,
I will
everybody.
say,
Have a
I
good
will,
night.
I will, just one little last second thing.
That's
I will say
fine.
we might be doing something with Cowboy Bebop soon. So
Yes.
just stay tuned to that. So.
Yes. All right. We'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye bye.